Hey fellas, I'm on the downhill slide with the HO229 project. I've got everything ready to, well, pretty close to put together and draw where I'm going to do my cutouts, and then glue it together, and I'm ready to paint. I don't know if any of that made sense. So I'll quit yapping and let's just take a look at what I've got, where I'm at, and what I'm going to be doing. All right, so the first issue that I had to tackle that was going to be difficult was the base and mounting it. And I initially had placed a magnet inside here, but it just wasn't balanced correctly. It might have worked if I had a big enough post and could mount it up here, but that isn't the way that I wanted to go. It just wasn't going to work out. So what I did is there's a little space in between this part and the clear part underneath. So what I did is I drilled a hole through this part, put in my tube, which accepts this 3/16 inch acrylic rod, and it goes right in there. Now I know this is kind of an eyesore, and I will probably cut this down just a little bit. But the way it sits on the base, the way I have it angled, you're probably not going to see it anyway unless you look underneath. But it is sturdy, and that's the best solution I could come up with this plane, just because I'm going to have a lot of the interior bits showing. Now I am overly impressed with the fit of this kit, and I think a lot of that is in part due to me taking this really slow, dry fitting, test fitting, gluing, fitting parts together while they set up, and but everything's fitting perfect. And this outer fuselage shell comes in this top piece, this front piece, which kind of extends over to the bottom, and then there's this middle piece right here, and then the rear piece. And everything fits together great. I've got the right-hand side wing all done. Now I didn't put anything on the inside of this because it's not going to be showing. But it looks like these mount up right here. There's these posts. There's 4 of them. 2 on top, 2 on the bottom. Those 4 holes, and then you just stick a post in there that they supply you with, which is, if I remember right, is how the actual wing to the plane is attached. So they really did their research. So that looks like that's going to fit correctly. One thing that I wanted to do is install the landing gear, because if you can see, I've already started doing my cutout. And so, you know, this is the way it's going to look once it's done, other than, you know, the clear parts are painted. I've already started doing my cutout, and I wanted to install the landing gear because you're going to be able to see in parts of that. They don't have instructions on how to make this with the gear retracted. So what I've done is I've taken the front landing gear, and I'm not going to install all the other little gizmos that go along with it, because I don't think you'll be able to notice. But I will be able to mount this and glue it right up here on these 2 posts. Glue it, and it'll fit right up in there perfectly. And you will probably be able to see barely. You can kind of tell that something's in there. Maybe not, but that fits in there quite nicely. Now the rear landing gear, let's see if I can get this back piece off of here. Okay. Now the rear landing gear fit right up in this spot, and they fit pretty nice. I did have to do a little bit of manipulation. This is where they normally would go in, right there, and they would go in up and down. So I ended up cutting up the landing gear. I think this is the one that goes on the left side. I ended up cutting, there's a fixture that goes into here so you can mount it like this. But I ended up cutting a notch, as you can see. So this will fit in here just like this. And the tire has this little post, or the wheel has a post, that fits right into the landing gear door. Get that in there. So it fits in there just like that. So this is going to go on like so. So you will be able to see some of that landing gear, which I think is kind of cool. So I am going to have to include some of the other parts in there. And I've got them painted up. But, you know, I think that's pretty cool that you'll be able to see where the landing gear is on this whenever it's displayed. So I've got that. And let's see, what else? Oh, the wing. Now this is the left-hand side of the wing. And it went together pretty well. And where is my top? The next step is I'm going to have to cut out the top portion of this wing so you can see all this good stuff. And when I was at Harbor Freight the other day, I found a wood burning kit for like $8. So I picked it up, and what my plan is, and what I did with this, is I'll take the wood burning kit and I'll melt the plastic to cut the majority of it out. Because this stuff is really brittle. If you try to drill into it, it's going to crack and break on you. So I want to be as delicate as possible. And the best way I've learned to cut out clear parts is to like melt through it. A lot of times I'll heat up an X-Acto blade and cut through like some nubs on clear parts. But I've tried this woodworking tool, and it works out pretty good for taking out the majority of the plastic. And then I come back with my Dremel tool and sand, and then take sandpaper and sand off the rough edges. So let's take a look at how I'm going to cut this opening out on the top part of the wing. Alright, I've got my $8 Harbor Freight wood burning tool, and I haven't seen one of those since I was a kid. But it come with a lot of these other attachments, which I've tested, and what I thought would work is they had this, it's like a real dull X-Acto blade, but it just doesn't seem to get hot enough. So I've got the point on it, and it's probably the soldering point. It looks just like my soldering gun that I have. So you could probably use it for that as well, or if you got a soldering gun, I'm sure you could use it. But this is how I did the other piece. And you got to be careful. But what you do is you stick it in here and you start melting through. And you want to give yourself a lot of leeway around your line, because as you can see, this really bubbles up. And it would be easy to go over your line. So then what I'll do is I'll take my Dremel tool and I'll just sand that out and sand up to my line. You just have to be careful with this, because with this brittle plastic, because it is easy to break. In fact, when I was working on getting the base, getting the plane attached to the base, I had drilled into the bottom clear part to attach a magnet, and it ended up cracking the whole thing. Stupid of me. But yeah, I won't do that again. It's one of the reasons that I opted for this method, because I'm putting very little stress on this plastic right here. All right, now let me unplug this before I burn myself. So there we got our basic shape cut out, and you can see there are these ridges where all the plastic bubbled up. So now what I'll do is I will take my Dremel tool with a sanding bit. I'm just going to go along and slowly work my way. Now if I stick it in there and really grind it, it's just going to melt it some more. So I just kind of slowly ease up to where I want it cut out. And you kind of got to be careful. If I'm sanding down here, I don't want to be holding back here. I want to be holding close to where I'm sanding. So I'm putting the least amount of stress on this as possible. Then what I'll do, it'll still leave a little bit of a ridge. You can kind of see here, you can almost flake it off with your finger. I'll take some 220 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to smooth out all that and get all those ridges off. So that's how I do that part. I'm going to get on with this and get this all done up, get my bottom, the inside of the bottom of the fuselage painted, and see you on the next video.